Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Launchpad. We are now on episode 9. Love this show. It is so much fun. And I was just hyping up that intro to Chris and Jordan here before the show. Oh man, Jordan Richard just killed it on that. Like that intro gets me pumped every single time we start this show. Last week I had Stefania Bell and Adam Hutchison on, and we talked injuries. We talked about Dak Prescott. We talked about Saquon Barkley. We talked about every single guy that is pretty much coming back from an injury this year. So if you want some hard-hitting analysis, try to get ahead of the curve a little bit, definitely recommend checking that one out. And today we are switching it up and we are talking strictly DFS. For anybody that hasn't seen the show before, what I like to do is bring on two people with very similar mindsets and, similar things. So, Stefania Bell, she's a physical therapist that focuses on injuries, as is Adam Hutchison. And then today, talking DFS, we got Chris Robin here at Detroit Beastie on Twitter, who, you and I connected like my first week in this industry somehow, instantly hit it off. And then we've got Jordan Vanek. I'm sorry, I don't know. Is it Vanek or Vanek? Did I get that wrong?
It's Vanek, but it's okay.
Vanek. Jordan
Vanek.
Jordan Vanek. And we connected recently and, just got along right off the bat. Really glad that I took the time to get to know Jordan a little bit. But these guys are awesome when it comes to DFS. So before we launch into this show, Chris, why don't you introduce yourself? Let everyone know where you're working at nowadays, where they can find you on Twitter and all that good stuff.
Sure, I just switched it up a little bit. I'm with Team Rise or Fall now full time. I can do 100% of my DFS content with Team Rise or Fall. They have we all know about Discord and all the things. But this Discord that they have over there at Team Rise or Fall is outstanding. There's just hundreds of people talking strategy, 24/7. Like I have to put my phone down or the computer down. They're always talking and sharing stuff. It's not one of those, people get really weird about their process or their lineups, and they don't want to see how much money you have in your FanDuel account, or they don't want to tell you it is what it is. We all lose, we all earn money, it is whatever. But this Discord is unbelievably fantastic. And now in the morning, officially started this past Monday, Beastie's Bombers, just a quick 6 to 8 minute video. Beastie, we all know, it's in my name. That's my cat. Nothing crazy there. And it's just I go over 4 or 5 guys. Today was a bonus guy. Jock Peterson was my bonus spot. Vanek's got the Atlanta Braves hat on. And so it is what it is. It's very successful. It's only been running 4 days. So I appreciate all the support, all the love. And again, I said it week 1, day 1, not to be egocentric, but I knew that there would be support. That's just the kind of people I surround myself with, like-minded individuals that are kind and caring and just looking to build you up. So thank you to everybody for the support, and thanks to both of you here as well.
Awesome. Love to hear that. Now, Chris, I don't know if you're a hip-hop fan or not, but I feel like you got to check out the song B-Boy by Tech Nine if you haven't heard it before, because you love that alliteration. You got
Yes.
the Beasties Bombers. You got the bottom of the barrel. You love hitting that B alliteration.
Absolutely.
So check out B-Boy by Tech Nine if you haven't heard it before.
I was
Great
born.
song, all about alliteration.
Most of you already know this. Born and raised on the east side of Detroit. Eminem's from here. There's just so much stuff. So yeah, I'm a huge hip hop guy. I'm in my late 30s now, so that would be weird, if I had like sagged pants and like wearing. I don't know. I just want to get it.
Yeah, I still like to show my boxers off and sag them right underneath the butt cheeks. That's where I like to wear my jeans.
Yeah,
but
with a
anyway,
designer belt with a big, what's the logo? Or
big old buckle and
Yes.
the extra large white tee. We laugh, but that literally was me in high school. Hopefully nobody can find any pictures of that. Anyway, before we get into the show, we've also got Jordan. Jordan and I, we connected a while back. Jordan is somebody who has quickly become a very good friend of mine and new to the industry, growing very quickly. Just got a job over at 4for4. Congratulations on that. But why don't you let everyone know where they can find your content, what you got going on, and where they can get you on social media?
So the 4for4, I've gotten to do their GPP article now going this season. This will be the first year doing the content side of things, so it'll be testing some things out. I also do shows with Chalk Blocked with Bo and Scott, and then I'm going to be doing a show with the Rum Boys for DFS content. I just posted a Julio Jones, article, and it's mainly focused towards DFS because it's about Julio Jones being a week-to-week winner, not necessarily the redraft guy that is posting consistency. And this year will be a fun year. I'm excited to win people some money. I've told you many times.
Yeah,
Dave,
and Jordan says this all the time. What's up?
I have an idea real quick. Bo says, do you want the head-to-head smoke? All he did last year is just beat Scott Simpson, constantly. So, Bo, if you want it, you take Scott's money and I'll take both of your money. So anytime you want the head-to-head, I don't think you're ready, though, but you can continue, in your own little comfy circle taking Scott's money, and we'll leave it at that. All right, Bo?
We're getting hot right off the bat. Bo is another guy that is great at DFS. I took some of his advice. And DFS is something for me where, I don't really have a plan. So I envy guys like you that put all of your time and effort into it. I mean, I get lucky every now and then and I win some money. But if I'm being completely honest, it's very rare that I'm finishing the year in the black. I'm usually losing money. I just make my donations to FanDuel and have some fun with it. So I'm interested to pick your brains a little bit because this isn't something that I'm an expert in at all. Redraft, that is my avenue. That's my bread and butter. When we start looking at the week-to-week matchups, I win some, I lose some, but overall, I'd say that it's far from my strength. So let me ask you guys, I want to start off with this question, and Jordan, we'll throw it to you first. Why is it that you prefer DFS over other formats? Dynasty, redraft, best ball. What is it about DFS that you like to focus on?
So for me, I mean, the week to week studying is something that I like to do. And with redraft, say for example, my last year I drafted Saquon Barkley in the first round. My redraft season was over fairly quickly once I had Saquon go down, and I believe someone else that I picked in the top 5 rounds. DFS, it's like, oh, you played Saquon Barkley that week? Well, dang, my bad. Now next week I don't have to play Saquon Barkley. And I mean, it's fun to be like, oh, McCole Hardman's going to score a touchdown this week. And he actually does it, and you actually have him in your lineup being profitable on it. And sometimes in redraft, guys are, get a little banged up for your team, where Austin Eckler last year, and it's like Austin Eckler didn't win you a lot of redraft weeks, but that first week coming back from injury and PP or against the Bills, he had 16 catches and killed it for me for DFS. And there's little moments where you're counting on guys that are just like, wow, I can't believe Sam Darnold won me money this week, or I can't believe this. And I think it's just a fun format, and I just truly enjoy it.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, there is that aspect to it where it's like, there's some guys that I'm never going to draft in a season-long format, but I'll take a flyer on them with a good matchup, and it's fun getting to root for guys that you're going to have 0 shares of in a season-long format. So I completely get that. Chris, same question to you. What is it about DFS that just gets you so excited?
I've always, since day one, since I was a boy, I've always been about, strategy. What can I do to give myself an advantage over other people? Whether it's, playing kickball. I played in the co-ed kickball league, always talking strategy. It's something I've always enjoyed. Never joined the military. I think I would have done well, in the Army or the Navy or something along those lines. But I've made no bones about my age. I'm 37. My first ever fantasy football league was in 1995. I was in 5th grade. So again, I've been playing redraft and dynasty and all this stuff for 20 plus years, almost 30 years. And again, I love it. It's still challenging, but DFS back when it came out in 2012, 2013 was something new, right? We're all looking to, I guess if you're doing life right, you're looking to grow and get better. And what can I do, to change and really feed myself or feed other people, in a weird way here. So DFS was a challenge to me, and it still is, but I'm always trying to look for an edge, whether it's ownership percentages, whether it's, salary comparison to both sites or week to week here. So DFS, to me, I get that fix almost every day. With redraft or dynasty, especially this time of the season, July, June, August, there's nothing going on, and it's the same thing going over and over again. We all know the echo chamber is, shout out to Nate Hamilton, he said the echo chamber, and that's right. And it's just the same ebb and flow of seasonal fantasy sports. Whereas in DFS, you can play hockey, you can play baseball, golf. They have WWF Royal Rumble DFS. Anything your heart desires, you can play on FanDuel or DraftKings here. So it's always broken down to its simplest form for me. It's always been about strategy, something new and something that challenges me. Now, again, I respect people that are just starting to play DFS. I respect people that are just starting to play, dynasty, superflex, redraft. But to me, it's not as exciting as it used to be, right? We all know about, rookies and new shiny objects, especially if you're a Scorpio. I believe you're really attracted to shiny objects or something along those lines. And DF every morning.
I think that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, a cat is attracted to shiny things and catnip and all that. But to me, DFS, every morning I wake up and I'm excited to look in. Even the night when I go lay down at night, I'm already have my notes. I'm already thinking about it. And again, you didn't ask this of me, but the day that I don't wake up and I'm not excited about the slate or, what I'm going to do in terms of a video, then I'll walk away. But it's still very exciting and it's still very challenging to me 8 years later.
I love that. And you talk about new people and new people getting into it and how you respect that. And I wonder if you guys have heard this story often, because I know me and a couple of my friends have very similar experiences where, like, the first time we ever played DFS, we won big and then couldn't hit after that. And I feel like there is this beginner's luck when it comes to DFS. I'm not kidding when I say this first came out in whatever it was, 2011, 2012, 2013. My friends and I, we all thought that we just found a foolproof way to make money. I put $40 down on my first week. I won 650 and then lost it all by the end of the season. And that's a similar story that I hear a lot of people say. So is that something in your experience when people reach out to you? Do you hear that often? Do you think it's something where, like, overthinking it could actually make it worse for you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Overthinking it. And it's just, when you break anything down to its simplest forms, you should have a format. Like, everybody has these self-help books or these self-help TV shows, like, step to just your core or your base, like go through 1 through 4, regardless if you want to branch out, or that's how I hear stand-up comedians write jokes. They have the base and then they write an outline and then they kind of veer off at each little topic, and before you know it, one tiny 4-piece core has turned into an entire, like, tree of ideas. When it comes the DFS, you should have your simple checklist that you go through, right? And again, my first time playing MLB DFS, I won $3,000 on one entry in the first 10 days, right? And if you look at DFS scores now, like 350 is my score that won me $3,000 was like 84 points. I mean, they constantly changing the scoring here. But yeah, to answer your question, you should have in your mind your own little tool bag for DFS. And that's why I love getting together with people or being in group chats, Discord, all that stuff is, you hear something that you didn't think of and you're like, I can add that. I can write that down. I can put it on an index card and I can explore that. But at the end of the day, right before lock, I go through my 4 or 5, core checklist, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and we got Justin in the comments, and he's hitting it right on the head. I mean, people have gotten so much smarter. It used to be like you could put in the time and the effort to give yourself an edge. And the thing is now, there's so many aggregate websites out there and so much information available that you don't need to be that person that's, there's optimizers out there, and you don't need to be studying really hardcore anymore, just because there's so much information out there that, you don't really have to dig deep. Somebody is going to do that digging for you. I want to throw this question over to Jordan really quickly. And this is just, if people are brand new to DFS, can you explain the difference between tournaments, cash games, head-to-heads? Let's just stick on football today with NFL, but there's so many different types of games out there. Can you kind of explain the difference between these different types of DFS games?
So with tournaments, they pretty much, like, there's GPPs that are mainly my strong suit and what I kind of go through and play. And basically you'll have like a $20 entry. First place is $1 million, and there's a ton of people in the contest. While cash, it'll be like hey, it's a 50-50. You put in $20, you come in the top 50%, you'll win 40. And it's like, oh, cool, I'm winning $20 back. You're doubling your money. Or you'll have the like for tournaments, it's usually like the top 20% make money. So 80% of the people are losing. While in cash games, you're just basically giving yourself like a higher return, not higher return, but a more consistent return if you're a good cash player. While tournaments, it's like if the volatility is just, you can have a crazy return on your one time where you won your $650, and then you kept playing that tournament over and over, and then you just kept slowly but surely just going down and down and down. And I mean, cash games just give you it's like playing blackjack versus roulette. Roulette, you're not going to have the same type of odds unless you're playing numbers, versus blackjack where you're just playing the cards.
Yeah, and in my head, the first thing I thought of, like, playing a cash game is like investing in government bonds, and playing a GPP is like buying those penny stocks that you hope are going to hit. Now, I don't need you to explain to us what the difference are, because Jordan kind of laid that out for us. But Chris, what do you prefer playing? I mean, are you a guy that likes these multipliers, the cash games, or what?
I'm a big cash game guy now in my life. I have a real simple term to separate both of them. Cash games are just, you want chalk, all the chalk that you can handle. You want all the same guys that everybody else is going to have, and maybe one or two guys. In terms of a GPP, you want all those flyers. You want all those low-owned guys. That's why I started bottom of the barrel, to help people win GPPs. But where I'm at now, I play 180 to 210 lineups a night, but they're all cash games. They're all those I wouldn't call a completely cash, but those like 3 to 5 man contests. That's it. Each one is $1 or $2 to get in, because personally, me versus 2 other people, it's all a numbers game in DFS. Where can I crunch numbers and what, like ratios and all that stuff, right? So if I play in 200 3-man contest, how many times I can get over on 2 other people? That's easy peasy. And again, I wrote everything down. I know we'll get to it. I kind of bury the lead. I get excited. What can I do? We're talking DFS, but I've transitioned more to cash games, but a lot of them, as I said, 180 to maybe some nights 250, depending on the slates and how they're broken down.
I like that. So Jordan, let's go back to you then. How do you kind of change your strategy? How does that differ? If you're playing in a big tournament, trying to hit it big, or if you're playing in these cash games, I want to know if your lineup changes. And then before you answer that, though, I just want to call out this comment, which is hilarious, because I couldn't agree more with Z. I don't know if it's just that the tournaments are getting sharper or if I'm getting worse, but I empathize with that heavily. Like, my first year was my best year, and I've just progressively gotten worse and worse and worse ever since. But let's hear about how you strategize differently between tournaments and cash games, Jordan.
So with tournaments, there's like the thing called chalk, which is the player who's going to be the most owned during that week, where these sites kind of project. And with tournaments, you can kind of find your leverage by getting away from the chalk and find the player that is going to be sub 10% ownership, that's going to be smashing your lineup. Well, for cash games, chalk is really, really hard to fade, because chalk becomes an 80% play, where it's like Derrick Henry versus the Jaguars. In a tournament, he's probably going to be in the 40s to 50% owned, while in cash games, he's most likely going to be 80% owned, unless there's just a bunch of other great matchups. And you just kind of go with it, like, which chalk are you playing? And if in a tournament you're like, oh, I'm fading Derrick Henry because I see these 2 players being better than him, you're just gaining leverage. Like, in a tournament, you want more leverage on the field when you can find it. It's really hard to find nowadays. While in cash game, it's like, okay, you only need like 2 spots where you're just getting a kind of lower owned guy where that dude can be better than what he's projected, and the field is just, you don't need to fade chalk in cash. Like, chalk is not something I generally recommend when fading in cash and tournaments. It's, if you can find it and it makes sense, 100% do it.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I struggle, is like, I always hear like you're supposed to fade the chalk. And like you said, like Derrick Henry against the Jaguars, it's like, how do I not start that? Like, yeah, he might be, $10,000, $12,000 or something like that, but he's going to produce. So how do you not buy that? And then I feel like I start overthinking, and the next thing I know, I'm starting the 3rd string running back on the San Francisco 49ers, trying to save some money so I could buy up on my tight end, and I end up just, absolutely crapping the bed every single week. But Chris, same question to you. How do you kind of differ your strategy from these big tournaments to these cash games and multipliers?
Well, like a first-time DFS player, they look at, as you said in the opening of the show, Dave, they look at DFS as like a foolproof way to just get rich, to be a millionaire. And when it comes to DFS and GPPs and big tournaments nowadays, seriously, I'm not talking bad of GPPs, but you have a better chance at winning the lotto nowadays in today's day and age, because a lot of them are like 150 max entry. So someone like me, I mean, I'm just a low to mid-level player. I can't compete with, Awesemo, aka Alex Baker. They have unlimited bankrolls. They're able to max out every contest. And what did I say earlier? It boils down to a numbers game. If I can, any raffle, you go to your local golf club and you enter a raffle, you put in 300 tickets, more than likely your ticket is going to be pulled and you're going to win. So GPPs, it's just about, what can you do to differentiate yourself, and what are you willing to risk? Are you going to be unbelievably crazy, get out of your comfort zone, zone and play J.D. McKissick and Ty Montgomery and just get insanely crazy, fully knowing that more than likely 75 to 80% you're going to throw your money away, but you have to hold hope for that 25 to 20% that if these guys score a couple times or something breaks my way, I'm going to zoom past everybody in front of me because nobody is on these guys, right? So GPPs they're a lot of fun. I mean, that's where I seen Bo said it in the comments. It's instant gratification, right? Any sort of gambling, sports gambling, roulette, as Jordan, alluded to earlier. It's all fun. It gives you like that warm and fuzzy. It makes you move. It makes you feel alive. So to play in a big GPP and updating it and looking at the scores constantly is fun. And that's, I would assume, and again, I say this out of experience, GPPs for me, big tournaments for me, were just kind of like a fun kind of thing. But when I wanted to step my game up and like, hey, I'm not half bad at this, people want to hear my opinion, I wanted to get more serious. And that's why I transitioned to, cash games or other smaller, tournaments. Any GPP I play, boys, it's always single entry because you're swimming with the sharks. And I mean,
Yep.
You're going to get bit and something bad's going to happen. So, I kind of stay away from those today. But again, I still find them very fun. Every once in a while, I'll treat myself. I'll max enter a contest just to say I did, just to do it, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and it is fun. I mean, that's how you make money, and that's how Jordan has hit it really big, winning some of those GPPs. We got a question from Z here, and just hypothetically, let's say you're doing 200 lineups. How much are you hoping to walk away with? Are you hoping that you is it 3% a week? Is it 20% a week? What's kind of your goal every single week when you're playing these cash games?
Well, every single week, let's shorten it to every single night. Every time I play, since day one, all I've ever tried to do is double my entry fees. As long as I do that, we're good. Anything more than that is a bonus, right? So again, if I'm playing, I have it all written down here too, because I have it down so cold in terms of, I'm spending my real money. So I want to see some sort of return. And I that's what I do. You guys all know that I write everything down. But when I enter 200 contests a night, just double my entry fees. And I can set my watch by that 3-4 times a week. I'll double my entry fees without fail. One night a week, I'll goose egg. I lose everything. And, we're talking, $300-400, no big deal. And maybe 1 to 2 times a night, I hit everything. When, I'm talking all the 3 and 5 man contests. And when I hit everything, you're looking at $1,200 to $1,400 return. And again, I've been doing this and logging this and playing this way for about 3 or 4 years now. So when I say I set my watch by it, I don't take that lightly. I'm not, no smoke and mirrors. So again, all I ever try to do is double my entry fee, which I do 3-4 times a week, 1, maybe 2 nights a week. I hit everything, 12, 14. And without you just cannot get around, failing and goose egging at least once a week in my book.
Yeah. Well, we'll get back to the DFS talk in just a second, but we got some breaking news in. Saquon Barkley was just placed on the PUP list. That is going to be, it's going to be very reactionary when you hit Twitter once we're over with this show here. That's an absolute heartbreaker. Field Yates just broke that story.
I feel safe right here with you guys. We don't have to worry about it. And what do we got? We got like 40, 50 more minutes on there. So while we're here, we're safe. We're in peace. It's just the 3 of us, and we don't have to, worry about that. Although I drafted Saquon in the Scott Fish Bowl.
Yeah, I've got Saquon in the Scott Fish Bowl. I've got Saquon in about 30% of my best ball lineup. So that is a real kick to the shin right there. But anyway, back to DFS. Obviously you need a mix of both, but I'll start with you, Jordan, here. Is it better to go for guys that are going to give you a safe floor, or when you're setting these lineups, are you just chasing pure upside and trying to find the cheapest guy with the highest upside every single week?
So for running backs, I love floor because floor is most likely opportunity. And when it comes to opportunity, like that is a kind of correlation. Like James Robinson is a perfect example of this, where he got 250 plus touches. He was a top 5 running back in football because of the amount of touches he was getting. Well, with receivers, I mean, I prefer to I try to find my McCole Hardman each week because receivers are very go up and down with what their point totals are, where your DeAndre Hopkins of the world usually have a safe floor, but when it comes to your average Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, some weeks are getting you 20, some weeks are getting you 5. Finding the weeks that they're doing that is going to be really tough. And it depends on kind of what you're paying or playing, because you want guys with a higher floor when it comes to cash. Well, in GPPs, you are chasing the upside, you are chasing the ceiling, but you need to understand that floor matters too. Like, I want, like, DeAndre Hopkins is a high floor and a high ceiling. I like to play DeAndre Hopkins at DFS. While some guys, like, I don't want to just all of a sudden make my, receiving core Demarcus Robinson, McCole Hardman with Patrick Mahomes and be like, yep, they're going to, Kelsey and Tyreek Hill are just taking the game off. They're going to go get 20 targets to two of them. We're going here. This is what we're going to win.
Yeah, but those weeks when you do have McCole Hardman and Marquez Valdez-Scantling and they do all hit, I mean, those are fun weeks to have. Let me throw the same question to you. And I saw you nodding right when Jordan started talking, so I don't think you're going to disagree too much here. But is it kind of the same for you where you're looking for the floor with the running backs and the ceilings with the receivers, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if we got to it yet or we will get to it. The question that's sticking in my mind is about, does it change, week to week in terms of floor guys and ceiling guys? And to be honest with you, it's day to day. Well, I know we're talking football here, but baseball and hockey, we'll leave that aside. But when it comes to football, I'm with Jordan 100%. You want to chase certain ceilings and certain floors, and it's all based on, specific positions here. So a floor with a running back, absolutely. You want to hit ceilings with tight ends and wide receivers. And by the way, I punt tight end every day of the week and even in my seasonal team. So discuss.
Well, you beat me to it. That was my next question. Let's start with you, Chris, since you mentioned it. In redraft, I'm the guy that wants to pay up for my tight ends. I want to take Travis Kelce in the first. I want to take George Kittle, Darren Waller in the second. I don't want to have to worry about, the volatility at tight end every single week. But you said that you punt tight ends in DFS. What do you mean by that? Are you just going for the cheap guy that you think is going to catch a touchdown, or you're just never paying up for those top guys?
Yeah, well, I have this weird process. I'm sure, some people can agree, especially Jordan here. I fill out my roster the same way every week. I normally pick my DST first, and then I work my way up or down for my lineup. And tight end is the last position that I, kind of fill there. So I fill everything out, and whatever money I have left, I use at tight end. But so then it becomes, searching and looking at field percent, offensive snap percentages, things along those lines. Because again, everything I've done all over these years here is you have to have, actually, to be honest with you, I take that back. A tight end, like a stud tight end in DFS, it's not as important as people think, right? So you can go down the list. Most weeks, a big DFS win in terms of a GPP always, without doubt, has the number one scoring DST in their line, whether it's $2,500 or whether it's, Buffalo or Washington at the, the max price, $4,600. And I can't remember a time where me personally, or I've seen a big time line where tight end was the focal point. That's the whole reason they won, was a tight end. And I know in today's day and age, a lot of leagues are tight end premiums and things along those lines, but I've never felt the need to really pay up for a tight end, both in seasonal fantasy and in DFS. It's just something that's ingrained with me. And again, I have a lot of character defects. We've all discussed it. Everybody knows my story. And I just can't get over the hump of really wanting to pay for a tight end in DFS formats.
Now, I want to hear the same question for you, Jordan, because I saw you shaking your head a little bit. I saw you grimacing a little bit. I saw some smiles and some head nods. I don't know how you feel about Chris's evaluation here, but are you a guy that pays up for a tight end, or are you kind of doing the same thing and just hoping Mo Alley Cox and Jacob Hollister are going to haul in a touchdown?
Well, so for me, I mean, it really, really depends on the slate, and it also depends on where you're playing. Because like DraftKings, you get the bonuses, you get the PPR. Well, on FanDuel, it's half point, so it's more touchdown chasing. So it's a little bit. They're different sites. For my most profitable week in the NFL last year was my Darren Waller week, because Darren Waller had an insane week against the Jets, and it wasn't about Darren Waller, I need to play the top tight end. It was like when Kelsey's on a primetime game and Kittle is hurt, and then Darren Waller, the price he was that specific week was like 6,400. Like, mind you, Evan Ingram still at the time was like 5K, 54. Hunter Henry was still 53. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, I kind of project Kid or Darren Waller for a certain amount of like points that week, and he obviously ended up smashing, and it was the reason I won because he was 10% owned. But when it comes to like punting a position for DraftKings, defenses are usually the thing I kind of punt, because defenses don't. The pricing is super strange. Where your Jets defense was 2K against the Miami Dolphins, and I kept playing them. They kept giving me enough points with like 8. Well, on FanDuel, like there's not that big of a gap, and you need the good defense. Like there were weeks where the defense, I'm sure the Patriots against the Chargers last year, that same week of Darren Waller, probably killed it on FanDuel. It's like, for me, I defenses and tight ends are like the two things that I look at for DraftKings that I usually try to punt. It just really depends on who's involved in the slate and kind of where things are. Because like people kept buying into Evan Ingram last year and buying into Hunter Henry, and I was like, I'm going to play Jordan Akins for 2,500 and just I mean there was a meme where one week his touchdown costed me, I think, like not costed, but it was a difference between like $3 to $4 grand for me, where it was the dodge. You can look it up at Barstool post and like dodgeball, you're out because Jordan Akins just has the ball right here. Watson throws into his chest and he drops it. That one, I think it was against the Bears too. Funny enough,
I remember it well. Yep.
Yeah, that play was the difference.
The Bears won a lot of games on drop touchdowns last year. Do you remember the DeAndre Swift? I know Chris does.
Yes.
DeAndre Swift
Yes.
wide open in the end zone. Matt Stafford just throws a dime and it just bounced right out of his hands. I mean, the Bears
what's
got
funny
some
is
lucky breaks last year.
I made a bet with Nick at P2W that week. If Chicago won, I had to recite, something that Nick wanted me to write and vice versa. And I paid the bet. It wasn't tough to do. But then I got my final dig when Detroit won later in the season. So it's so fun from start to finish, everything we're doing here.
It is. Now, what I want to call out real quickly, I was hoping that like we were going to have this show and you guys were both going to say the same blueprint. Like, you pay up for a stud quarterback, then you get your floor running backs, and then you get your high upside receivers. And I thought that I was going to have like some sort of way where I'd be able to come out of this show and confidently start betting. But what I'm realizing as we talk more and more is that you guys have very different styles and it works very well for both of you. So, there isn't a black and white way to play this game. You've got to find out what works best for you. And you guys, I've seen your numbers, I've seen your spreadsheets, and I've seen how much money you guys have made. You guys are both very successful in this with very different strategies, which is interesting to me. And I really like that. So let me, I think we kind of have answered this a little bit, but I want to ask both of you this, and I'll ask you, Chris, first. What is the one position that you are okay paying up for? I know you said defense, special teams. Is that the only one, or is there one position where you're just like, I want a top elite guy every single week?
This is a great question, and my answer, you might think my answer is kind of dodging it or it's going to be vague, but again, week to week it's different. I never look at the football season in terms of DFS where every week I'm going to pay up for a running back. I just don't do it. It's different every week. One day it's a 1 week it's DST, then it's all based on matchup. So sometimes I'll spend up on quarterback, sometimes I spend up on running back, wide receiver, and so on. One position, as you know, I don't spend up on is tight end, but it's so different to me week to week based on matchups and prices. I guess I would say that I feel most comfortable, paying up for a running back. We know the studs in certain cases, like Derrick Henry last season or Christian McCaffrey in his 400 touch year was like maxed out. He was like $1,200 or $12,000, 12.5, something like that. And he was still returning value because we all know, I'm sure Jordan counts numbers and does spreadsheets. It's all about value, X value. And the X value is just based on how many points did they score at the end of the slate compared to their price. You do a couple, divisional numbers and you go there, you take the root and you go from there. But it's that way. If you can get a guy that's going to hit you consistently, three plus X value, you're going to be good. And it's up to me personally, or you, Dave, personally, to find that value week to week based on matchups, based on player, and based on price. So again, that's why I say the strategy involved here is unbelievably fun. That's what I enjoy the most.
Yeah, I mean, this show is really making me want to get into DFS a little bit more hardcore because I'm the guy that submits a couple lineups every single week, win some, lose some. But like I said, I usually finish the season in the red. I might have to get a little more hardcore to start diversifying myself a little bit across some more lineups and hope that I can start hitting it. But Jordan, same question to you: what position are you paying up for?
So as Chris said, it's very week to week, but DraftKings usually does very well with their running back pricing, and that's usually the position that if I'm paying up, I usually kind of tend to go to. And it also depends hugely on the year itself, because the year that McCaffrey, Michael Thomas, and Lamar dominated not only fantasy football, they dominated DFS, where it wasn't just one 30-point week from them. It was they were just consistently doing it, and it takes a little bit for DraftKings to kind of catch up, which I always say the first 4 weeks of the NFL season really shows how good you are at redraft, because the first 4 weeks of the NFL season, the pricing doesn't usually catch up. Where, example, Dave, a guy that you love, Chris Carson. Chris Carson's going to come in at a very awkward price of 57 to 6,100 on DraftKings. and he's going to be priced in a range where like your Antonio Gibson are 7,000, your McCaffrey's are 10, and it's like you're going to find value with that type of dude. But later on in the season, it's like, okay, we know who's good at running the football, we know who's getting touches, and like DraftKings adapts very fast to, okay, we need to price these guys up. And last year they had, in the beginning of the year, rookies are always underpriced. So like that's always my fault where I fall in love with rookie running backs that I can't get away from. And like Jonathan Taylor, if you were team Naheem Hines last year, week one, you killed it. Congrats. If he was the guy that you picked week one, he didn't really do that for you for the rest of the year, but week one, he probably won some people some money. While me playing Jonathan Taylor, he hurt me. He hurt me bad.
I like that. Chris, let me just throw that same exact question to you. Or no, we both asked that. So let's move on. You already said that you're doing like 200 lineups a night, Chris. And Jordan, I'm wondering, because you're doing more GPP, how many lineups are you typically doing on a given week for the NFL?
So last year, after I was able to kind of get a bankroll where I was kind of established, I basically played a 3-entry max, a single entry, and I would tend to play a single entry in like the 1 p.m. only or maybe the 4 p.m. only, and that's it. I am not the 150 lineup builder. I don't really like to use generators, and it's not that I'm not for them. It's just, I mean, not that I'm against them. It's just like that's just me personally. I like to hand build my lineups because it makes sense to me. Well, a generator, if say you have Dalvin Cook projected 19 and Derrick Henry projected 17.6, and say Dalvin Cook is a little cheaper than Derrick Henry, you'll never get Derrick Henry. That's a difference of 10 yards, not even. Like you're not. It doesn't do it for me personally. I like to hand build, and I mean that's about the lineups. I usually kind of stick to under 10. I mean, unless I kind of get, I had a good week the previous week where I try to play contests I can max out because that gives me the same with the field. Nobody has outdoing me. And there's a contest last year that they've been running. It's a 20 entry, it's max, $3 per lineup, and first place is 100K. And the 2 weeks I played it, the first time I had 20 out of 20 lineups cash because I just had in one of those weeks where I got the running backs right. The next week I had 4 cash, and it's like it very bounces. And the thing is the single entry and the other lineups I played, they hit for bigger money while I wasn't good, and it's like it changes. It gives you a different dynamic.
Now we'll close the show off with a couple of questions that are just gonna help you guys pump up your ego a little bit, plug some of the work that you're doing. So Chris, I'll ask you this question first. You've been playing DFS for a long time now. You said you started when this was brand new. What's the best week you've ever had? How much money have you just been like, wow, like I just made that over a week?
Well, in a 4-day span, I won $18,000. I hit 3 nights in a row. I hit the GPP first place, 5,000 each one, so 15,000 in 3 days. And then the fourth day, I hit like second or third for 3,000. So it wasn't even a week; it was a 4-day span. And I can certainly tell you that when it comes to DFS, when you're hot, and then when you're not, you fall off a cliff, and you have to kind of pick yourself up. So to me, I believe it was like 18,000 and some odd change, because obviously there was some odds and ends in there, a couple $100 here and there, but without doubt, big round numbers, 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, and then 3,000 the fourth day. And we're talking, in the second year I ever played, so 2013, 2014.
It's very understandable why you got hooked. I mean, winning that type of money over the course of half a week, I'd be going back every week too. I get it. Now, Jordan, I know you kind of came up on this space because you were showing off some of your winnings. So, how was it for you? I know your year-to-year growth has been crazy, but what's the best week you've had?
So this past year, it was actually in college football. I had $90 worth of entries, come away with $55,000. And for the NFL, that gave me more of like okay, I can get a stable ground. But the 50 grand was the first big GPP that I won, because college football, that one is crazy volatility and very fun to play, but I don't recommend saying I'm an expert by any means. It was a great week, but for the NFL this past year, it was 27K. Those were the 2 huge weeks that I had that, again, you just get, sometimes, the athlete that you were picking just performs at that high level.
Well, I appreciate you guys being, open and honest about this. Not everyone likes talking about the money, but if, you guys are watching the show right now, these guys clearly know what they're talking about. So you're watching the show right now. You see at Detroit Beastie, you see at Jordan Vanek, DFS. Give both of these guys a follow because they are going to help you a lot this offseason. And, you guys are both giving people. You're generous people. Like, obviously, you want to make money for yourself, but you also want to share your resources and you want to help other people win money. And that's what makes you guys both awesome. There's a lot of people that are making a lot of money in DFS, but they want to keep it close to the chest and they don't want to share it because they feel like they found this process that works for them. You guys are more than happy to help anybody that asks. So let's kind of finish up with that. If somebody is brand new to DFS, they've never ever played before, how do you recommend that they start? What app should they use? What resources should they use? Chris, start us off. How does somebody get into DFS that's never played before?
Sure. I would say in terms of the different formats to play, that's not for me to decide. I mean, we all know I'm a big FanDuel guy, and Jordan might be a big DraftKings guy, and that's what works for him. And who am I to judge? I'm not sitting there with him with the Carolina Panther back there. He's allowed to do what he wants. But what is universal that I find is start slow. First and foremost, don't bet more than you can lose. I mean, we are playing with real money and giving debit cards or prepaid, whatever. Don't get in over your head. This is supposed to be fun and learning and sharing advice. Don't get in over your head. And to me, start slow, small, and it's always about contest selection. Again, I'm 8-9 years in playing DFS, and I have people that still message me. They've been playing 5-6 years. Why can't I win? They're entering the wrong contest. Now, I know that might seem crazy, but it really is about contest selection. You have to be able to keep an open mind and shuck and jive and zig and zag. So contest selection and start slow. I'd be silly as a first-time player to think I'm going to hit the Millie Maker on day one. That's a pipe dream, not going to happen. Better off playing some scratch-off tickets. So start slow and contest selection. Start with the smaller double ups or 5-man contests and go from there. And if you want to throw something in $1, $2 single entry GPP just to say you did, absolutely. Slow contest selection. Don't get in over your head with your funds.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to talk to you guys both once we're done with the show and kind of figure out my process. Because what I'm doing is, I get free entries all the time from different websites, and I get the FD points from FanDuel, and then I just kind of throw crap at a wall and hope that some of it sticks. But I don't really have a process. It's not like I'm doing X amount of cash games and maxing out my entries and GPPs. Just like I build some lineups and then throw them in random contests and don't really think twice. So off the show, we'll be talking about helping me fine tune my process a little bit. But Jordan, same thing for you. For somebody that's brand new, do you kind of have similar advice to Chris? What would you say to a newbie that's trying to get into DFS?
Well, first off, what Chris said is a great starting point as well. And like my thing that I'll add on to it is like decide what player you're going to be. There are people who don't like to dive into research. There are people who don't like to, grind out different reading material. Find people in this industry that may do that for you. I have been gracious, helpful enough that or thankful enough that Matt Kajewski showed me the ropes in college football DFS. And then I took what I learned and I went and applied it to what I'm doing now. And it's really about who you kind of follow, because it is a game that, yeah, you can get lucky this one time, but as Chris knows, a process is super important. In bankroll management, like what Chris was saying, don't play with money you can't lose. The moment it's not fun for me and I'm not having a good time with it, I'm out. I'm not going to be playing it. And I've had weeks where I've been super frustrated. And instead of going and being, oh, there's Sunday night football, it's a single game, let me go play a $150 lineup. No. Put my phone away. I walk away. I was wrong. Let me evaluate what I did wrong. And I mean, I recommend single entries. I think there's a $12 single entry that they were running last year that has a lot of people in it where first place is $50K, but it is a single entry and you're at the level field. You have one lottery ticket and so does 11,000 other people. You might just have the better numbers. And I mean, that's about it.
That's definitely my plan. I mean, what I've learned from this show is that I am going to figure out, it's going to be weekly. I'm going to be doing X amount of cash games, X amount of single entries, X amount of multi entries. And I just need to have a process that I could stick to every single week so I can kind of track my gains. And both of you guys were phenomenal guests today, really informative and helped me and the audience, I'm sure, learn a lot. And what I love about this show is we don't talk about the same thing every single week. Every week it's something totally different. And this is the first, DFS show that I have ever done as long as I've been in the industry. As long as I've been doing shows, hundreds of shows now, this is the first time I've ever talk DFS outside of just, pulling something out of thin air and be like, oh yeah, he's a high ceiling guy. Go play him in a tournament, because I don't really know what that means, but I regurgitate it. So thank you guys so much for being these informative guests and helping me out a little bit. Before we sign off here though, one more time, Chris, let everyone know where they can find you, where they can find your written work, where they can find your video work, social media, all that good stuff.
Sure. And really quick before I get into that, the whole reason I share everything that I'm doing and all my experience is because years ago, when I whole started this thing, this isn't a secret, I reached out to so many people, and not one website, not one person ever replied. No DMs, no emails. And it really rubbed me the wrong way. And I told myself, anybody that reaches out to me, so that's why I make myself so available to anybody and everybody. Because again, if I have this wealth of information, if Jordan has this wealth of information, what's the point of all this if we're not sharing it and helping other people? I can't take it anywhere with me, so I can only keep what I have by giving it away. And we all know that's from support group meetings, and I get that from. But you can find me on Twitter at Detroit Beastie, all my work at Team Riser Fall every morning, Beasties Bombers on the YouTube channel. I'm on the Team Riser Fall Discord, and again, I'm always on Twitter. Please feel free to reach out. Send me a DM, text message, email about sports, DFS, life, whatever you want to do. Love connecting and chatting with folks.
I love that you called that out about how you were reaching out to people and they weren't helping you out. So, personal story real quickly, because I just went through this yesterday. I started working at Fantasy Pros October of 2018. And that's when I was just, writing on the news desk. I was doing MLB and NBA stuff at the time. And then in March 2019, so about 6 months later, I was like, you know what? I want to make a career out of this. So I had, tried getting my articles published at Fantasy Pros, and I wasn't big enough for them yet. So I started reaching out to so many people, like every fantasy football website that I've ever used as a resource before. I was sending them articles. I was sending them video stuff, just like, hey, I want to get into this industry. Do you have time for a call? And would you believe it that not one person responded? And the reason I bring this up is I went through those emails last night. Just give myself a little chip on the shoulder there. I went through and I looked at every single one of those emails and all the people that didn't respond to me when I was a nobody back in March of 2019. And, it's something that I still think about. It's like, and I try to be that guy when people reach out to me, whether they're brand new in the industry or whether they've been doing this for a while. I like to try to make the time for those people and help them, because I know how frustrating that was to not get that support when I was trying to make it in the industry as a brand new guy. So love that you called that out. And Chris, like I said, we connected like my first week on Twitter.
Yeah.
I was a nobody at the time, and I said, hey man, you are blowing up my feed. What's going on? Let's talk. And you immediately open up. We've had phone calls. We've talked a bunch. So, you practice what you preach. And I really appreciate that about you, Chris.
And the thing is, really quick, looking back at those emails and putting the chip on your shoulder, kudos to you, because you could have said, you know what, I'm going to be that same jerk. I'm going to be that same a-hole. I'm in it for me. I don't care what anybody else is doing or messaging me. So, thankfully that you look at it the same way I do, where we're here to help and assist people, because make no mistake about it, I know that people don't really need me. I need the people that consume my content. That's why I'm forever grateful. Any message, tag, anything that happens, I'm forever grateful for that stuff. So pay no mind, and I make no mistake about that. I need you. It's not the other way around.
Love it, man. We were supposed to just plug our Twitter handles here, and here we are giving this nice motivational wind up to the show. Absolutely love it. But Jordan, let everyone know where they can find your stuff. Obviously you're on 4for4 right now, but if you're doing anything outside of that, and then on your Twitter, just let everyone know where they can find you.
Yeah, no, Jordan Vanek DFS is where you can find me, and like Chris has said, where you can reach out and I answer questions. I've hopped on multiple calls since being in this industry to help people out with DFS. Jordan Richards can attest to it, where we were supposed to talk about some video editing stuff, and it turned into a 2-hour talk about me and DFS and just getting him hooked on baseball a little bit more. And I mean, again, Dave, you were one of the first people that actually got a call with, and like we talked, and after that I went on like a streak of like 20 to 30 people that I got on calls with, and it just networking and building it up. Like if anybody wants to get on a call, cool. Like I do a ton of different research. I was talking to Dave before the show. I was just like, yeah, no, I just put this random thing together. Don't know if I'm going to use it. I'm just going to find out like, oh wow, the Giants were really bad last year. Jason Garrett's not really good. But again, if anybody needs any help with DFS, anything like that, just reach out. About it.
Yeah, these guys are two of the best when it comes to trying to help other people win money, helping people get their footing in the community. So absolutely give them a follow. Thank you again. both so much for joining. Been looking forward to the show for a little while. Thank you to everybody that tuned in today. We will be back next week. And next week, we are talking rookies and this whole incoming rookie class. We got Thor Nystrom coming on, who's a fantastic guest, one of the best scouts out there when it comes to looking at rookie talent. And then I'll be joined with Sam Wagman as well, a good friend of mine that I have made in this community who is also, growing quickly through the ranks. So we will see you all next week, same time every week, Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern, and enjoy the rest of your day.